Took it a while for it to click in. Today I want to talk about Mr. Peter Franks. Went to the hospital, and he was sleeping in his bed in the Visayas normally. He's 67 years old, and Peter was a fairly good shape. He's, if anything, maybe 5 pounds overweight. Always worked out, always was a happy person, ate well, things like that. But this story starts like this. Pete's never really had any kind of medication, never really been under any kind of medication all his life. He's always pretty well healthy. Been in the Philippines about 3 years. Everything was going fine. He had a pain in his side, and then all of a sudden it reached up to his heart and his arm. It's about 2 o'clock in the morning. He told his wife, he says, "You get me to the hospital. Give me the doctor immediately." So she called her brother-in-law because there's no 911 here. Brother-in-law showed up about 20 minutes later. So being in that kind of pain, she went to the neighbors and says, "Hey, can you help get my hubby up because he's had a heart attack or something's going on?" And so they got him up. Neighbors came over and got him up. Now remember, it's early in the morning. And neighbors, of course, come and they took him to the hospital. When immediately they got to the hospital, they took him in and says, he's had a heart attack. He was unconscious, in pain. You could tell he'd already passed out. So they gave him oxygen and what they could do, gave him some shot, this, that, but they had no scanners. The hospital had little or none equipment at all. It was basically a public hospital. Then so they called down to private hospital. They had no scanners. So they called down to another hospital in the same town. They had no scanners. So they knew that they were in the same boat all the way around. The closest one was 35 minutes, 40 minutes away. So they called the guy to come pick him up. He showed up about 40 minutes later. And but before this, I forgot to tell you this. Before they entered him in the hospital, I forgot to say this. Before they entered him in the hospital, "Good morning, how you doing, Chris? Good morning." And Chris, I agree with you on the other topic we talked about with that gentleman the other day. But anyway, so they gave him, before he could enter the hospital, they said, "Okay, sir, how are you going to pay?" He says, "I have credit card here." And they forgot they had bought a MaxiCard. He'd been watching my videos. It says buy a MaxiCard, but they had forgotten it. So he says, "I have a credit card here." He says, "Should cover everything we need." So they took the credit card and they had to check it, make sure he had credit on it. So it took about 20 minutes there, and of course he's in pain. He had already passed out. The wife was there. The wife was so upset. So the facility, like I said, had no equipment or anything about it. So the ambulance came and they took him to another hospital. They arrived to that hospital. It took 40 minutes to get to that hospital. And the hospital said, "Okay, no problem, we got him, but we have no doctor." So they had to call in a doctor from another hospital to come down and take a look at him. But the thing of it is, he's not a heart surgeon. And so, or he had regular knowledge of heart. He says he's got some type of blockage from what I can tell, but I can't tell until we actually scan him and see what it is. So there's another hospital that we can transport him to in Manila. We need to transport him to Manila. And good morning, Skyzer. And so they took him to said, "You're going to have to fly, or you can't drive him. You can't take him by ambulance. It's, hours and hours." So they said, "Is there any kind of transport?" He says, "There is a helicopter service in Cebu that'll transport him for you. He'll have to be on a bed or some type of lean back like a recliner, but he has to get to there or he's going to die." So that problem with that is it's $1,500. Now he had a credit card that had $5,000 on it, and he had savings of $5,000, so he had $10,000 available. So the wife said, "I'll go pull out some money out of the bank," but see, the bank's limit the funds taken out to $400. But anyway, they got all that figured out, and the helicopter came and picked him up and took him to Manila. It was about from the time he had the heart attack to the time he got Manila was 18 hours. 18 hours. So just say almost a day. Once he got to Manila, the doctors actually looked at him and said, "Sir, the only thing we can do, we can operate on you. You do have a blockage. We scanned you. You do have a blockage. But before we do any kind of surgery or anything on you, you have 200 to 250,000 peso available." Well, the wife happened to think to herself, she goes, "Oh, I bought a Maxi card, one of the health insurance cards. Oh, I got this card." The doctor said, "Oh, that's fine. Okay, we can use that. We can use that." So they operated on him, and thank goodness he had bought that card. I suggested to him to buy that card, and so I was really happy to hear that he took the time and bought that card because it covered that particular. It covered accidents, illnesses, heart attacks, things like that. And there's a limit on that card, though. But anyway, getting into the story, he had certain medications and things like that that the hospital did not have. So they had to call around and find the medications. Now imagine he's in Manila at one of the heart surgeon hospitals. And they're flying and running around. His poor wife's running around like crazy trying to make sure he's taken care of, make sure that he has food, make sure that he has all that he needs. Because not every hospital, even though it's big and fancy and beautiful, may not have all the stuff inside. The thing of it is even after the blockage, they said there might be something else in there that we need to scan you again. Well, it doesn't. He didn't mind it because they had availability there to do it, and so he said, "Okay, whatever we need to do." So the thing that and now remember the helicopter, he had to pay the helicopter bill and all that stuff, but we'll get into that later. So as he's there, and everything was fine, he ended up staying 3 days. 3 days from the time he got there, he stayed 3 days. Well, remember he had to pay the surgeon $200, which is $4,000 to $5,000 for the surgery. Then the hospital himself wanted another 200 to 250,000, so another $5,000. Well, the insurance covered up only to a certain amount of money. It covered for the surgery, so he didn't have to pay that doctor. So he took that money out of his savings and paid the hospital bill. So he could get out. But all the other complications, he said it was just so much hassle that to do that. Well, they got everything all squared away, but there was a remaining balance of $2,000 that he had already released all his funds and savings. His credit card was to the limit, and the Maxi card was all they could do, and he still had to pay $2K, and everything is all said and done. So he said to the hospital, "Is there a way that I can talk about this? Can I negotiate the price on this? Will you let me out of the hospital?" "Well, sir, do you own any property? Do you have any land? Do you own a car? Do you have anything you can put up?" And he said, now, another thing I did forget to say in this, and the reason I'm bringing it up now is it wasn't really relevant, but he had been paying on Blue Cross and Blue Shield, Pacific Cross, for a year earlier. Then he asked me about getting additional coverage. He dropped Pacific Cross because they're not accepted in a lot of hospitals now because during the COVID, they did not pay their bills to the hospitals. A lot of the insurance companies that are presently here in the Philippines did not pay the bills to the existing hospitals because they owe them, lots of money. I don't know, probably millions of dollars for all I know. Whatever amount of money that they owed them, they didn't pay the bills to the people, so they found themselves in a bad situation, especially the insurance companies. And these hospitals are saying, "We're not accepting you anymore because you didn't pay the bill that you paid last time, and you're not willing to negotiate or do anything about it." So they canceled all those. Now, a lot of these hospitals, I don't care what people say, "Oh, I used my card." You better check tomorrow. You better check the next day to make sure, because if you're in a province, or even if you're in a city like Manila, Davao, CDO, or Dumaguete, or wherever, you need to make sure that they have that insurance, and you can use it today. Just because you can use it today does not mean you can use it tomorrow or next week or next month or the month after that. And that's really is my concern. I pay insurance. Well, how do I know it's going to be good next time? You know, do you pay the bills? Do you pay the bills through the hospital? Aetna is going through that right now with a lot of hospitals here in the Philippines. A lot of the guys saying, oh, I had no problem. I just go here. Even the VA, you have to pay for it up front, but the VA reimburses you the money. But a lot of these hospitals, they're requiring you to pay now, even if you have some insurance, and the quality insurance like United, Aetna. I just did a whole big video on this on my channel, Tom and Ruth, on insurance companies and who's paying and who's not paying, and the benefits of having insurance and who are actually a good insurance companies. But anyway, long story short, get back to Peter Franks here. Peter said his wife is just really distraught. You know, he's healthy. He's trying to get out of the hospital. He's healthier. He's not 100%, but he's running about 80%. He can get up and move around. He can walk. He feels a lot better, 100% better than he did having that heart attack. So he realized to himself, he said, okay, how do I get out of this hospital? They're not letting him out. So finally, he says, we do own a lot, but he said, Tom, the lot was worth nothing. It's just a lot. So he pumped it up to him. He says, yeah, I got this nice lot. I know it's worth the 100,000. Well, where's it at? Give me the dimensions of the lot. Where's it at? Where's it located? So, and he's going, are you kidding me? So, long story short, after 2 days of him, the doctor released him. He got out, and said, okay, I'll sign a utang, a credit note that I'll pay you back the $2,000. I have my Social Security come in first of the month. It's $1,600. I'll give you some of that. I will get you that money, and it will be paid back within the next 4 or 5 months. Don't worry about it. Well, apparently they had a problem with it. And apparently it's not just foreigners, it's just everybody in general. Now, as you know, Filipino have Philly Health, and they have another one. I forget the name of it, but it's insurance that if it's. But even that covers that. It's the medications that'll kill you. What I mean by that, a lot of Filipino will go to the doctor here if they have heart problems or whatever problems they have because they're not able to pay for the medications and maintenance thereafter, even though the hospital bill may be covered. Now, the first night, so anyway, he gets home. He utangs the money. His wife and him talked. He says, I'm really, really, really afraid what to do next, and really afraid if I'm living here, what do I do? Do I stay here and risk having another blockage, or do I, he says, you know, I'm fairly healthy. Doctor said I'm going to be fine. I just have to take these medications. But he says, I'm feeling really uneasy. So him and his wife talked about it in depth. Now she's Filipino. She's never left the country ever, and she's never been anywhere. So he said the best thing that he said, I'm going back to the States. And so, meaning he's going to have to go back. He's going to find a place to live because he sold everything, just, you know, like me. I'm no different. I am no different than he is. Sold everything I owned, and that's how I'm coming to the Philippines. Sight unseen, you know. Oh, no, I've been here before, but I'm just saying. And so he's headed back to the States. Peter says, yeah, I'm headed back to the States, and I want to try to, you know, get things in order there. I want to bring you there, and everything is fine. Now, I hadn't heard from Peter in a long time. He comes on, leaves a comment this from time to time, and I did not know all this happened to him. And he's one of those guys that he doesn't really tell a lot of his life. I didn't know that much about him. I know that he was not financially rich. I mean, he came here with about 20 grand in his pocket, and he knew he had his credit card, one card, and he has a debit card on that same account. And it had 5 grand on it available for credit. And of course, the lenders will not extend credit to him because he even tried that. Can you extend the credit at least a couple of grand on this card? And it was a name brand. I've been banking with you, Bank of America, for years, and you will not extend it? Just a couple $1,000s? Well, extend it $1,000 so I can get out of the hospital. So I learned a big lesson. And the thing that I wanted to say to a lot of the guys here, please be aware of your current situation because you're not going to always be healthy. I don't care who you are. I don't care where you live. I don't care what's going on in your life. People think they're like bullets and strong and everything else, but you're always going to have a situation where you're going to have to go to the doctor for some reason, for something. And so Peter found that. So he's back in the States. He went back to the same city where he came from. He was thinking about getting a job, like a simple job, because he got, like working at Walmart or something like that as a door greeter or something, just to help him. I mean, he's getting $1,600 a month. He said, "I found an apartment." He found an apartment. He got easily in, meaning he didn't have to put a first/last security deposit. He got something that he can sustain himself until he can save up a few bucks and start trying to get the visa to bring his wife there. But I told him even there, you're going to have to probably have a sponsor to do that, because there's minimum requirements, 20, 25, depending on your income, 28. And if she has a child, you bring the child, it's going to cost you some more money. But in which they do, they don't have a child together, but they have one child uh, by marriage there, and his stepdaughter. So, of course, she'll be coming with him. So I said, well, just figure that's going to cost you extra there. But he's back in the States, and he's glad. He said that the doctor in U.S. Found a couple of things that the doctor here, and that's what I'm afraid of, is because we just had a family member got misdiagnosed also. And the thing of it is he's changed medication. He says that this stuff you're taking is the way it shouldn't be taking this. You should be taking this. So he put him on different he went to the doctor. He signed up for Medicare. It cost him. It ended up costing him. He had to, I forget what it's, a penalty, this, that, I don't know, for Medicare, Medicaid, and all that. So, which I'm not really familiar about. He said he had to pay a penalty. That's all I know. So he's back in there. He's happy. He's so excited. He said, the thing that I did wrong, he said, number one, I did wrong is I sold everything I had. I came there without really thinking about what was going to happen. If something happened there, I had no exit plan. And he said, Tom, if you did not tell me to get that Maxi card or get me other type insurance, he said, and I told him that Blue Cross had stopped paying. You better get some other type of insurance. And I did a video on it. And luckily, he said, that saved me, a few $1,000s by having that card. It paid for the doctor, and it paid for the entrance. It paid for the ambulance. It paid for some of the medications. It paid for the oxygen. It paid for a lot of stuff that I had to do. He said it paid for that. And so I paid $200 for the card, and I paid for that. And so it got to the point to where he said, I realized that was the best thing I ever did. And so I put him on that next track. So I'm glad he's there. He's going to take his wife there. He's going to actually have and talk with her. Let's see, who went off grid years ago when I was training in the Philippines, discovered his, yeah, Chris. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Yamashita's gold. I would like to have some of that. There are a lot of guys, actually. There's some guys here panning for gold now from U.S. I know of 2 guys right now that actually came from U.S. just panning for gold. They said there's gold here. Not really Yamashita's gold, but there's gold here. So, really, that's really a situation I think about, is the health insurance. Now, Ruth's sister went to the doctor. She's having some spells, dizziness and things, and thought maybe it was her blood pressure. So they went and she went to the doctor and got on some type of blood medicines and things like that, and was fine. Everything worked out. It seemed to be feeling better, but the problem was she was not. It was still reoccurring. So went to, I think, another doctor. Anyway, third time's a charm. Third doctor ended up giving her the right medication, because she come to find out, is what I said in the beginning, was in her ear. It was in her ear. What it is, she carries the baby sometimes, a baby, the grandbaby, and if she falls, who's gonna stop her from falling? and she's carrying that baby, and she's up and down all around. So I'm glad she got that inner ear squared away, because you never know, how that is and what's going to happen with that. Inner ear is really cause you to be off balance, cause nausea and all kinds of stuff. My father had it. It's the only reason I knew about it. I'm no doctor. I just knew about it because my father had it. He said the laying on the bed and just felt like the room was spinning, spinning, spinning. So you know how that is. So Chris, what are you saying? He said so. A lot of guys, Tom. There's a person you referenced, Australian character on the went off grid 5 years ago, and who discovered his. Uh, oh, really? There's there's a couple of guys that I know went in the hills that are living in the hills here. That really, one was a corporate guy, and he's a corporate accountant from a big firm there in New York. Did stock, and I knew him through just acquaintances. But he went in the mountains, and nobody's seen him. Nobody's talked to him. I had his email. I sent many emails, and it's not like he could go up in the mountain and he had internet and stuff. He'd come down once a month and reply all his emails, go back up in the mountain once every 2 months. And I've not heard anything from the guy in 6 months. So I don't know what the deal is with that. So hopefully he's safe and secure, and everything is fine there. I mean, a lot of that, and honestly, Chris, a lot of the gold. I'm not sure that it's not been found already. They did if you remember on the History Channel, there were some guys that really found that they thought the tones and everything else on that. But I know anyway, that getting back to the doctors, I just want to say that if you're a person that lives here and has retirement coming here, and maybe you should think about, if you're living here, to have an exit plan, for an safe exit plan. If he didn't have a helicopter service out of Cebu to fly him to Manila, he would have died, because no doctors were available to do surgery, and no doctors had the expertise to do it. It's where they insert the thing, and the blockage they had to, well, eliminate the blockage. It's like insert. So it's not no easy task, and even at $5,000, that's really cheap. I'd hate to see what that would cost in the U.S. But then on the other hand, it's pros and cons of that. Or even though it's cheap and you die, what difference does it make? Sometimes you say, okay, I'd rather go in debt so I can live, instead of being cheap and die. So these guys that are here thinking everything is fine and dandy, and they've been paying on the insurance, and the insurance is not even covered in the hospital. That's what I told him. He went down to the local hospitals and even checked at the hospitals, and they're not being accepted anymore. He said, not only that, you saved me $400 a month there for a year. So that's $5,000 there. He said that I got saved because of that. And they stopped. A lot of them, what happened is, and of course you guys know this, is it's the COVID, and the debt was so high for a lot of insurance companies, they're not able to pay the debt. Aetna, United, is a couple of Pacific Prime, Pacific Cross, really had a hard time financially, especially when you're only getting, $100 a month or $150 a month because of coverage, and limited. And of course, there are limitations on age too. A lot of these guys, after 70, you don't have any insurance here. There are companies that will give you insurance after 70 here, but they're few and far between. I did look at some policies on it. They're expensive. You're going to end up paying $600-800 a month for insurance here. Better go back to the States and deal with that. And your costs increase here. You're still going to be paying more here for your costs than you would pay in the United States and living there, because you got Medicare, Medicaid, and some other programs. In fact, there's a program my friend just signed up in Florida. It's through the Florida Health Network. Florida Hospitals, Florida Health Network. And if you're a member or you sign up for this particular program, and as you know, Florida's hospitals everywhere, all over the place in Florida. That's where I come from. And if you sign up for this program, you can get in their hospitals, and for elderly from 65 and above, and it covers up to 75. Well, it depends on the plan. It goes up to 80. So you have insurance, and it's Well, inexpensive, meaning inexpensive $200, $300 a month, but you have interest. So, um, well, that's about it. I didn't realize I've been jabbering on for 25 minutes here. That's the thing, too. The guys that come here, um, don't think about that. I have a couple of buddies that are on medication and they're getting their medications from the States and bringing it over and having it shipped over. They're starting to stop a lot of those packages coming in, because the way life is, So if you have any email copy, snapshot mine, I come offline, I will. Okay. That's okay. All right. I'll I'll screenshot. Mine's really easy. You just go Tom and Ruth Philippine Adventures, and you catch me there on YouTube. And I'm always there on YouTube, Chris. The live stream where we're on the live podcast the other day, I kind of agree with you what was being said on that thing, Christian. So thank y'all, and I'll snapshot this, Chris. And thank you so much, and thank you guys for always, always, always coming on my channel. And thank you so much for spending your valuable time. God bless everybody, and thank you so much for coming on Tom and Ruth Podcast.